This is a story about unintended consequences of slashing headcount. A group of federal employees is responsible for keeping American workers healthy and their employers out of trouble. Of all the government departments reduced by the Trump administration, there's one little-known agency that has been hit particularly hard. And as our colleague Josh Idelson reports, the aftershock has rippled across the American heartland.
My name's Brendan Demisch. I am the Vice President for AFGE Local 1916, representing workers, NIOSH workers in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Spokane, Washington, and I am a laid-off NIOSH employee as well.
Brendan Demisch is not alone. Across America, from Cincinnati to Spokane and beyond, the gutting of the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health has been felt. At one point, planned job cuts affected around 90% of the agency's workforce.
You see about 1,000 people across Morgantown, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Spokane, Denver, Anchorage, all looking and saying, we're out of a job, for one, but our entire mission is being blown up. It's not we're paring down some functions of this program. That would also be devastating. It's always tough to see your colleagues leaving an agency. But to see the entire mission being blown up and the entire agency and institute just being gutted, that is so upsetting to people who have made it their life mission to protect the American worker. People didn't know how to react.
Since being introduced in 1970, NIOSH has been one of the best deals the federal government has to offer, conducting or funding most U.S. workplace health and safety research for just $1 per American per year.
My name is Micah Niemeyer Walsh. I am Vice President of American Federation of Government Employees, Local 3840. We represent employees at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, or NIOSH, mostly in Cincinnati, Ohio. Today, I'm speaking as a union representative, not for my official position with the U.S. government. My day job is that I'm an industrial hygienist. Basically, I research workplace safety and health at NIOSH.
Current and former NIOSH employees say that work is now at risk as the Trump administration's cuts begin to take a toll.
I think a lot of the cuts that we're implementing now are painful cuts, and that they, they're cuts that are going to be difficult. But I think the president's position is that we're spending $2 trillion that we don't have, that we are taking from our children, and we've got to protect their rights to prosperity, to enrichment, to dignity, to choice.
In late March, Health Secretary Kennedy announced significant job cuts at the Health and Human Services Department. And then on April 1st, around 90% of NIOSH workers got word they were being laid off. Kennedy walked back some of those cuts in May, but then released a budget that proposed slashing 80% of the agency's funds.
You name a job, and NIOSH has done workplace safety and health research on that job to make it safer.
For Brendan Demisch, that's meant working to make Pittsburgh's mining industry safer.
In 1908, my great-grandfather landed in America and came and worked in the coal fields in Pennsylvania. So we have a long legacy. And coming out of school, I wanted to work, still in that family industry. And there is a NIOSH Institute in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that researches coal mining health and safety hazards. And that seemed like a great continuation of my family's legacy of protecting miners and working in that industry. Especially recently, some of our members and my team have been working on a project that improves the readiness of mine rescuers. These are the teams that if there's a mine emergency, like a fire or an explosion or a cave-in, they're the team that goes in to rescue miners. All that got shut down when the whole division got laid off. So that was, it was a really exciting project, and it's really devastating to see that service is no longer going to be there for the mine rescue teams. Mining is super critical for the U.S. economy. And the president's executive order has called for expanding mining in this country. Coal mining, metal, non-metal mining, all types of mining. And that's the backbone of the American economy. That's fantastic. We'd love to see the growth of mining in this country. But you can't get rid of the people that are there to protect those miners from being hurt and killed on the job. Especially as you're growing these new mines in this industry, there's going to be a lot of new miners that are going to be entering the field. And those new miners are so much more at risk than somebody who is experienced in the job.
In an emailed statement, HHS said, "Under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, the nation's critical public health functions remain intact and effective. The Trump administration is committed to protecting essential services like those that support coal miners and firefighters through NIOSH." NIOSH does much of the scientific work behind OSHA's regulations. But NIOSH is not an enforcement agency. It's a research agency, one that companies often invite in for help.
I've certainly interacted with a number of employers with active health and safety programs who believe that they have two functions. One is to comply with regulations, and the other is their ongoing surveillance and protection, promotion of the health and safety of their workforce. I think that those are critical employer functions.
Gregory Wagner is a Harvard public health professor and former NIOSH division director.
NIOSH provides new information, technical support, recommendations that many companies rely on. They're directed to help guide employers, workers, and other government agencies towards the basic approaches to mitigation of harm and prevention. Most employers do not do original research focused on the substances that they use. One of the things that you see this is that as employers, workers, and other government agencies can request when they're dealing with an unusual problem for which there isn't a known solution, they call NIOSH as the kind of disease detectives for workplaces.
It's not just mining that could be hurt by the cutbacks at NIOSH. Over in Cincinnati, Micah Niemeyer Walsh is focused on worker safety for firefighters.
My research right now relates to firefighters' exposures during lithium-ion battery and electric vehicle fires. Every type of fire releases different types of chemical compounds, and we just don't know as much about lithium-ion battery fires and electric vehicle fires. And so my research right now is really focused on what are those potential exposures, because the fire service doesn't have a lot of information about it, and they need to know as soon as possible so that they can protect themselves adequately.
So what's at stake?
This is a diverse, critical resource for the public, really unique in the world. It would take an incredible amount of will and money and time to be able to attempt to even rebuild, reimagine, recreate it. There really is the Humpty Dumpty problem. When you smash it, you may be able to pull a piece here, pull a piece there, but really the combination of the experience, the capabilities, the future opportunities, but getting people to actually work with one another with a common goal focused on the American people and those who work.
This is something that is extremely personal for me. My family has experienced major injuries and death working in the mining industry. My great-grandfather came to America to work in a coal mine in 1908. That great-grandfather lost his leg in a mining accident. My mom's father got black lung and died of black lung. My great-uncle on my dad's side got black lung and died of black lung. So to see a legacy of protecting miners just be cut on the whims of the secretary and not realizing what a devastating loss that means to miners, I take that very personally, right? So this to me is not just I'm looking out for my job or I'm looking out for the job of my members. I'm looking out for families like mine, and I'm looking out for other mining families in Pennsylvania, because that's somebody's brother, that's somebody's uncle, that's somebody's son that's working in these mines.
And do you see a path to prevent
this from being destroyed?
I do see a path to this. This could be undone by the stroke of a pen from Secretary Kennedy. I really, really feel like the leaders at HHS need to realize that their mission as leaders of HHS and their stated goals are preventing chronic illnesses. They cannot get rid of NIOSH and maintain that mission.